Hey guys, Michael here again. Today I would like to dive in this trailer track I wrote for Audio Jungle. We're gonna talk about the arrangement and tackle each section individually. Stay tuned. Alright, for our intro here, we're trying to create a certain mood. We're trying to deliver this feeling. And I decided to start with a pad, some sound I have here. I think I have some reverb on it. Yep. Then I needed another pad to give a sense of progression. And then I needed a boom sound. You don't really feel it, but it does make a difference. Then I used a reverse cymbal before the vocals. And some vocals here from the Ethera Intimate Vocals library. And then I introduced the bass line to create some movement. And then I introduced my low string section with a low pass filter on it. And of course I increased the velocity as it goes. And then I use a soft bram to give it some depth. And then I needed that deep hit. Last but not least, I added some white noise to introduce and create some tension. And that concludes our intro. Let's play it through. And for my build-up, I brought up all the big boys, the drums, the brass, big percussion, you name it. And let's start dissecting it. I started with some violas. And some cello. And of course my low string section from before, but I opened up the automation fully. I'm sorry, in the intro it sounded like this. But here it's open totally. And here's my string section in the build-up. And then I use some low brass. Layered with some trombones. And together. Then I brought in my first big drums. And I needed some gritty, violent alarm sound. So I grabbed this one. Then I needed a trailer hit to accentuate the section. And I brought in my sub bass. And then I use this guitar sample. It's a long sustained note, and it gives a feeling of danger, and it has this screaming kind of feel. I don't know how to do this. I'm just gonna play it. And last but not least, I used a bunch of risers. This one goes throughout the whole section, and it ends up with those two. And here's the build-up section with all the elements combined. And before our first climax, I needed a transition effect. And it's a combination of those three. I used a downer, some percussion loop, and a riser. Let's listen to them. Here's the downer. The percussion loop. And here's my riser. Now everything together. Alright guys, for our first climax, I added a violins line. And then it develops a bit more. And more. And I kept the same viola, the same cello, and the same low string section from before. And this is our string section together. And for the brass, I kept the same elements from before. We have here the low brass, trombones, and I added a tuba line. And with the trombones, I doubled up on the octaves. We were here. And I added this. And I'm just following the chord progression just like that. And here's our brass section. I kept the same bram. And I kept the same bram from the build-up. I put the full bass line. along with the sub bass, of course. I also added those 4 new hits. They are very essential for that section. And let's take them one by one. The first one is a hit that sounds like this on its own. It has some reverb on top, and I cut a bit from the lows, also from the highs. Added some excitement. And for the second one, it's a little bit in your face. I only cut also from the lows and a little bit from the highs. Nothing dramatic. And yes, a sound goodizer. And I have no shame in using sound goodizer. It's a good tool. And I added that short kick mainly for the low end. I made sure I cut the highs, not that it has conflict with the other kicks. I boosted the lows a bit. And then I used that preset for the drums, and there is no problem in using presets as long as you know how they work, why they do that, and how to tweak them. And then I added this transient shaper to give it some snap, and that's about it. And that's pretty much it for the percussion in that section. Afterwards, I used the same alarm sound that I used before. And because thriller music is all about building tension, I use that riser here. And that is pretty much it for that section. And before the second and last climax, I decided to use a transition, and it consists of those elements. Here there is a synth sample I used. And that short fill. And this effect. And this one on top. And here are all the elements combined. And for the strings here, I used something a bit different. For example, here with the violins, I added a higher octave and I developed the melody a bit more. Also same with the violas. And same with the cello. I think double bass, they're the same from before. I didn't do anything with them. So here's our string section. I didn't change anything with the brass. It's almost the same, except for the second part of the climax. I added one more section of French horns playing an extra melody, and it sounds like this. And I didn't ignore the mod wheel, did a bit of movement to it, so it sounds not too artificial, I would say. I used also for the brass a delay effect to keep it ringing. Then I added a choir. I let it sit in the back. For the choir, I use Ascend to a reverb. Here's the choir. I have some EQ on it. Of course, I cut the low ends. I use some decapitator on it to give it just a bit of drive, not too much. Some preset here that I also like to use. Another equalizer to cut more those problematic areas. And multiband compression. And an imager to remove all the mono signal from it. And the choir is sent to this reverb channel right there with those settings. And I cut the low end, of course. And I added also a limiter to control the peaks. And one more thing I added to the percussion section are those trailer hits. You hear them. They're not the trailer hits we used before. They're hits that are actually filling the gap between each hit and the other. So they give that sense of action. Let's listen to them. And with the rest of the percussion. And so on. And by the end of that section, I changed how the trailer hits are being played to make the whole thing crazy and more explosive. And then I use those two transition samples here leading to the brass melody. And this is the other one. And together. And then I used a bunch of risers, like this one. And that one as well. And it has this interesting effect on it. It's a tremolo thing. If I turn it off, it will be like this. Also one more riser. And this swoosh in the end. Now let's listen to the second climax. Alright guys, now that we are done with our climax, we're gonna need one more part where the track peaks the most and then it leads to our outro. And that part is a stinger. Let me demonstrate it to you really fast. We have the strings here and I did start on another note than the root note and it sounds like this. Here are the violas. Cellos. and the low string section. And as you notice that the stinger part is very unresolved, as like here when we played it around, we ended up on this dominant note, which is an F sharp, although our track is in F minor. And this creates a sense of unsettlement. And that's why after this part comes the outro, which resolves our track. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and found it informative. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon so you can be notified for the next time I upload a video or I do a live stream. And let me know in the comment section what I should be covering or doing next. I'm all ears to your questions and suggestions. Till next time, bye.